Okay. This is Moshe Landman with the Green Party coming to you directly from Clarksburg, Maryland, with a little music in the background. All right, this is, again, Moshe for Senate here, coming to you from a global perspective in Clarksburg, Maryland. Today, we're going to talk about the U.S. economy, labor, and welfare. The Green Party, of course, has a very unique perspective on these issues and comes from a different way of thinking about how we structure our economic life. I'm going to read for you directly from mostly its policy from the Green Party as formulated over the years, back from 1970 till now. America's economy was founded on the basis of a free market and locally owned farms and businesses in rebellion against the royal charters of the King of England and aristocratic landed gentry and nobility laws. However, the USA today has become similar to the colonial usurpers and the very same evils it fought so hard for freedom against. We now have a small percentage of corporations and individuals owning and controlling the vast majority of our wealth. The wealthiest 1% of Americans own 31% of our economy. The next 9% own 37%, the next 40% own 29%, and the final 50% only own 3% of the country's wealth. The wealthiest 10% of Americans now own 89% of all U.S. stocks held by households, a record high that highlights the stock market's role in increasing wealth inequality. We have reached a dangerous tipping point whereby the masses of laborers who do the actual working are waking up to the economic injustices and unfairness of the system. They want their fair share. These same companies spread their form of wealth and resource hoarding around the world, leading to global inequalities, poverty, environmental degradation, and ultimately anger and opposition against America around the world. The concentration of wealth is unfair and unjust and has led to increased poverty, homelessness, hunger, a reduction in life expectancy, mental health issues, unsustainable national and some state debt levels. We now have almost $32 trillion in federal debt, and ultimately default and bankruptcy. Yes, you heard that here. America could go to default. Oh, we're talking about it right now. In 2 weeks, we'll talk about this. We have a debt ceiling that we are not raising, and we could actually default on our debt. This is real. Inequality is a drag on economic growth and fosters political dysfunction. Concentrated income and wealth reduces the level of demand in the economy because rich households tend to spend less of their income than poorer ones. Reduced opportunities for low-income households can also hurt the economy and result in lower growth. All Americans who work should have representation to promote their rights and job quality of life. Labor unions and other forms of employee groups can facilitate these benefits. We can no longer allow the business owners, managers, or few shareholders to treat their employees or contractors with disrespect, abuse, and lack of fair pay. Every employer or contractor must have a right and the availability to join a company, county, or state-based labor union to protect his or her rights. America should focus on the goal of 100% employment for those who are able and prepared to work. We cannot rely on private companies alone to employ everyone. We must build public-private partnerships to utilize the best of both communities for the benefit of all American workers. Each state and the federal government must set out to create new public works projects to reach full employment. These projects, similar to what President FDR did in the New Deal, will be green, but also help society at large. The benefits from tax dollars and economic growth and productivity will pay for the program itself and actually yield a net positive return or investment. For those who cannot work or for any legitimate reason, we have a welfare safety net covering housing, food, and basic expenses. There will be no more homeless Americans. Everyone will have a bed to sleep in and food to survive. So this is our view on the economy, labor, and welfare. There's a lot to break down here, and the campaign, Moshe Landman for Senate, is going to be pushing for a transformation in our economic system. It's kind of funny because Donald Trump and his supporters, many of them are farmers. They live in the red states, Midwest. Most of them are not rich. They're not the 1%. They're not even the 10%. Donald Trump is the 1%. He's a billionaire. But most of his supporters are in the bottom 50 or not. And foolishly, they think that he will represent them. But the truth is they They are not represented by him. Many of them are much closer to the land, should actually be green if they actually understood what he stands for and what we stand for. He stands for the 1%, this concentration of wealth. Over the last 100 years, America's wealth has just been concentrated. Those who have money can continue to make more, and they don't want to share. It's greed. And guess what happens in the end of this greed system? The whole system collapses, where we're coming close to now. We have $31 trillion in federal debt. We have a Republican Party that doesn't want to negotiate. And, this may lead to an entire system reset. What I mean by that is a collapse of our economy, stock market crash. I believe it's coming this year. Maryland Metals, a precious metals company I own, is telling people now to get themselves protected with real gold, real silver, real money that's not cryptocurrency, etc. And so we need to be prepared. Now, welfare is important. This is something that the Red Party doesn't like, but we all have to take care of each other. America is not a group, is no longer a group of cowboys or colonists or exploitative corporations. We are a group now. We are like a family, although we all come from different ethnicities, countries, etc. around the world. That's what's great about America, except for the natives, who really are the true Americans. They're the only true Americans. Of course, we don't treat them well, and they're poor, and they're the worst of all Americans. We need to support. So welfare will include housing. Make sure there are no homeless. We need to build these centers now. Los Angeles, for example, has instituted this new tax on transfer of homes when you sell. That's money's going to go into finally dealing with the homeless situation. They finally are addressing it because they have an African-American woman who's now the mayor. And that's the reason. So we need to do that nationwide, start to build these funds so that we can properly house the homeless. And then we have to increase SNAP, the food benefit program in the Farm Bill, so that we have enough. Many families cannot eat. These are the basics. If you can't eat and you can't have a place to live, how can you get educated and ready for the workforce? So the whole problem is Wall Street. Wall Street, the minority of folks just playing games with the money, just hoarding that money and not caring about everyone else in the country. They are the ones at fault. So their money, they're not going to take it with them to the grave. They're all going to the same place, which is the soil. The soil is where everyone's going in the end anyway, unless you're cremated. Even then you're going to the soil. So we need to start to take apart that system and those groups of people hoarding the money, and then get that out through the tax system, but also through programs. The idea of public-private partnerships is very important. This is where the federal government, we know that some things the federal government or state governments do well. They're organized, they follow the law, there's a certain procedure that sometimes private companies cannot. At the same time, we know that private companies are oftentimes more advanced, they're more technologically savvy, they're usually quicker. People think that you go to a company or a store and it's not like the federal government. The lines are faster, the process is faster. So let's take the best of both worlds. Create these partnerships between the federal, the state governments, and private partnerships. Create new jobs. We have tons of works we can do. We're going to talk about that in the Green New Deal, where we can hire millions and millions of Americans to work on these projects, cleaning the water, the air, moving towards fossil fuel-free energy sources, transforming our country overall. So many projects to work on. We say unemployment is low now at 3.x%. But that's only the people that are telling you they're unemployed. We have probably 10% of people actually unemployed. They just don't tell the government that they're unemployed. So don't believe all the numbers you hear on these statistics. The economy right now is not doing well. Inflation is going to be out of control. And that hurts those who are poor, who simply cannot afford. Prices are going to continue to go up. Eggs, basic necessity prices are going to be rising and rising. Because we just printed money. We printed 25% more in 5 years. Of course, everything's going to go up from gas to bread to eggs, etc. We're going to talk about that issue on another video. This is more for the general economy, labor, and welfare. Welfare is not an evil term. It means that we help each other. And then those who are helped can get off the streets. The drugs, the mental health issues. The mental health is connected to this issue once we need to deal. That's another show we're going to talk about. Then we can get the folks to work, and they're actually going to contribute to everyone's well-being. The housing, we're going to be building 6 million more houses that we need. We're going to be building our communities out. America is not a royal society like Europe used to be. It needs to transform to who we really are, which Americans, we are the revolutionaries. We are the ones who hate the kings. We are the ones who revolted against the British royalty so we can have a democratic society. Democracy is not just a political issue, it's also an economic issue where we share the wealth, not exactly share everybody getting 1%. No, people work harder, deserve. There is a free economy. We do believe in the free movement of finances. My money is my money. We have contracts. That is law, and we can't just take it away. But of course, we know this. The giving pledge has become very important. People like Bezos and Zuckerman, they've all pledged, and Bill Gates, to pledge to give away almost all their wealth when they pass away. So that is a big help. But Warren Buffett as well. And they're already giving it to charities. So that's important. But if the 1% just get all this money and then do these special projects, we're still leaving the 50%, the 80% of Americans who don't have enough for the basic necessities of life, housing, living, and more. And they're not able to buy houses to build wealth. They're not able to save. A very small fraction of America has stocks. 10% again own 89% of the stock market. So we need to build in kindness into our society, into our economic system. Start to work together. It's going to take an attack, not an attack, but the banking system, Wall Street, especially the banks, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. They're part of a culture, and it starts with the schools, the universities, the Harvards, it's the Columbias, all the Ivy Leagues, supposed Ivy Leagues. There's no special status of knowledge. Knowledge is equal, it's free, it's available to all. AI is going to change things. Just because you went to a school or you work for a company, it doesn't really mean anything. You're not greater or smarter than anyone else. So we need to democratize education, the economy, wealth, and then everyone will be happier. At this point, we're just pushing ourselves over the edge, this cliff, as we concentrate wealth. And as the system tightens, it's going to be, for many reasons, we're heading towards an economic disaster. The Green Party has the solutions. People are not going to come to us until there is no other way, because they're going to, that's how it's just like the plant. A plant dies, it will rebirth, we'll have a rebirth. The soil will create a new seed, and a new plant will grow from a healthier system. But right now we don't have that system because it was built on the concentration of wealth and this idea of the super robber barons going back to the late 1800s, Carnegie, JP Morgan, and then later on you have the Goldman Sachses, you have the elite. It's all about thinking that you're just like the royalty from the royal family. This whole system was never good from the beginning. It was always the few having everything and the many not. We need to think about everyone doing well, and that's a better life. Everyone's going to go to the ground eventually. They're going to be in the soil. So let's get moving on this. Thank you again. This is Moshe Landman with the Green Party from Clarksburg, Maryland, running for the Senate for the United States Senate for Maryland next year. And let's get on this. We have a lot of work to do. Have a great evening.